What's up, sports bettors? LeBron's going to go hard on Christmas, and we are too. So I have a bunch of player props for you on Underdog Fantasy. We have a bunch of NFL bets already open, but what I'm going to be taking you through is a 3-leg entry or parlay on Underdog, right? So the way this platform works, if you're new to it, is any 3 picks you select, you'll notice you're betting 1 to win 6. Doesn't matter if you take the overs, the unders, doesn't matter if you switch around picks. 3 pick entries is 1 to win 6. So we've gone through the math before, and essentially what this means is the implied juice that Underdog Fantasy is charging is minus 122. So essentially, we're looking for value as a sharp bettor at minus 122 odds. A lot of people, they look at Underdog Fantasy and they're like, oh, it's a fantasy site. You can't compare the betting lines on Underdog to those on the sports books, and that's completely not true. So we just need to find value at minus 122, and we need 3 picks, right? You always want to be placing, I've said this a bunch of times, but you always want to be placing, as you'll kind of see with mine, 3 pick or 5 pick entries on Underdog, because that's mathematically optimal, where you're getting the best implied juice at minus 122. So let's get into it. The first play I have is Dinwiddie over 4.5 assists. So we're betting this at minus 122. I also took Ja Morant over 6.5. And what you're going to notice is hey, for Dinwiddie, the profit margin on this play is higher, and you can filter for any sports books you want to see. So hopefully you guys are able to tail this if you use Underdog Fantasy. Is Sports Illustrated, they have this minus 160. FanDuel minus 138, Caesars minus 142, DraftKings minus 150. We clearly found value. And all you're looking for as a sharp bettor is value. You think about investors, day traders, they talk about value, looking for value. For some reason in sports betting, everything's people make it so complicated. It's all about the sports. No, it's not. It's about finding value in the market. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because our OddsJam column, we just copy the odds from Pinnacle. So we have 7 sports books, all telling us Dinwiddie over 4.5 assists should be minus 138 to minus 157. Pinnacle, the sharpest bookmaker in the world, they're most bullish, along with Sports Illustrated, on Dinwiddie going over, right? They have lines juiced towards the over a lot more. Sportsbooks imply win probabilities through their odds. FanDuel a little less bullish on the over, but hey, still, we're getting 16 cents of improvement on Underdog. So as a sharp bettor, we look through all this market information. We're like, dang, yeah, this seems like pretty good value at minus 122. And another way I like to think about it is you can imagine if you had 10 different prices for Bitcoin. You got the Sports Illustrated exchange, you got the FanDuel exchange. Some are smarter, more efficient markets than others. So Pinnacle, known to be the sharpest bookmaker in the world. So we put a little more weight into them. And we kind of look through this whole market, and it's okay, Sports Illustrated is saying this stock, whatever, Dinwiddie over 4.5 assists should be $161, right? FanDuel saying 138, Caesars 142. Do we like it at minus 122, right? And that's what you're ultimately trying to determine. So these are the first 2 plays I went with. And again, it's free to browse odds on OddsJam, NFL, baseball, whatever. So you can do this manually, and you can search for value. You can, OddsJam is updating millions of odds. I mean, if you look at Underdog Fantasy, they probably have on their platform at any given time tens of thousands of odds, right? So OddsJam is scanning them, updating them all in real time, putting minus 122 to them. And you can browse odds and kind of hunt for value manually. But what this EV tool will do for you is just kind of point it out more directly. For whatever sports books you're using, it's just going to point out, hey, here are the top profit margin plays. No BS, just based on data. Here's what the data is saying. The best play is Dinwiddie over 4.5 for these 3 sports books you have selected. Then another tool I like to use, and I'll give you an example of a play I like. It's Mitchell Robinson under 9 rebounds. This is called a screen, right? So you can use this in a bunch of ways, but typically why it's useful is you can compare lines set at different levels. So for example, here it's Giannis, his rebounds line is 11.5 on Prize Picks, 11.5 on some of the sports books, 12.5 on others, and you can get under 12 on underdog. So maybe that's a play you're interested in, right? So long story short, the EV tool is comparing prices between the exact same bet. Like Dinwiddie over 4.5 assists, it's the exact same bet on all these sports books. If he has 5 or more assists, the bet wins. So you're just comparing the price. It's like Bitcoin versus Bitcoin. It's the exact same thing. So if you can buy it for, a lot cheaper than it's trading in the market, that seems like a great deal. But what this screen does is it allows you to compare lines set at different levels, right? Sorry about that, I cut out for a second, but basically the point is right, the screen allows you to compare lines set at different levels. So when you're talking about the EV tool, and these are the two tools, I basically exclusively use on OddsJam, you're comparing the exact same bet. It's graded in the same way. They're identical. Dinwiddie over 4.5 assists between all these books, so you're comparing the price. Now, what the screen's useful for is showing you where the lines are set at different levels. So, like, you can scan through it and be like, whoa, Bruce Brown, Jamal Murray are 4 on underdog, but hey, the sports books are at 3.5 and 4.5 respectively. So do we want to take Jamal Murray over or under 4? I apologize. Underdog, right? Their line is half of a rebound higher than the rest of the market. But what you'll notice is these sports books, they also have the over juiced, right? They have the over as the favored outcome. So it's not like there's not some perfect formula to be like, if Jamal Murray's line is 4 rebounds versus 3.5, what should that jump be? You can kind of approximate it, but it's not as clear cut. And here you can see, here underdog's lower. So that would make you think you want to take the over, but hey, sports books, they have the under heavily favored, right? They have the under juiced. So neither of those are ones I took, but you can see, long story short, is like the screen is useful for that type of thing. Like you can easily browse and be like, whoa, Harden's line is 5.5 on PointsBet, 6.5 on FanDuel. Like that's interesting. Let's look into these bets. Whereas the EV tool is much more like the EV tool will back out the profit margin of your play. Whereas the screen, it's a lot more, sometimes you'll get a lot better plays. Like you can imagine if, a line is 3.5 on all the sports books and 5.5 on underdog, you would want to hammer that under, right? Like here, it's like if we could get Dinwiddie over 3.5 assists at -122, that would be so much better. Because if he has exactly 4 assists, we're going to win. Whereas taking over 4.5, you wouldn't. So long story short, like the EV tool, you just take the bet in bold with a circle around it. The screen is a little more like hand wavy. Like, okay, here's where the line is on all the sports books. Underdog is a point lower, half a point lower. How do I feel about that based on how the sports books have lines juiced? So 2 plays I locked in right here from the EV tool. And then the final play I ended up going with is Pat Bev under 4 rebounds. So hopefully we can, continue to, we've been running kind of hot on Underdog Fantasy. So hopefully we can keep it going and keep running up this account. 3-pick entry to turn $2,000 into $12K. Let me know if you tail. Let me know if you like it. Again, like I don't control if sportsbooks move lines. I'm giving out good plays with an edge. And this is a market, The reason these plays showed up is because, there's currently value in the market on them. Maybe, for example, in the Lakers-Mavericks game, maybe something changed. I'm not sure, So, maybe some sharp action came in on Dinwiddie over 4.5 assists. So sportsbook started to move up lines, which makes us really like this over for him at -122 even better. This is a market, supply and demand. Just like the price of GameStop, people buy, it goes up. People sell, it goes down. It's not different in sports betting, right? This is a market. Great lines may not last forever. So if you're not able to tail it, hopefully the concepts were helpful. Hopefully some of these plays are still available, and let's make money.